AI podcast, where we'll continue to grow. A world of innovation, where dreams become reality. Come join the movement, let's take AI to the next level. We're breaking barriers, rewriting the code. Together we'll conquer, watch our ideas unfold. The future starts here, joining the revolution. Let's say our podcast, the ultimate solution.
Hello, everyone. This is Leland Best of Best Live TV coming to you from the Shiawassee River in Corona, Michigan. And we're here for another edition of Best AI Podcast. So we've been talking about ChatGPT and conversational AI, and we're just going to continue that conversation. Since Lee Love wasn't here with us last week, we're going to let him be part of that combo and go from there. So I'm just going to bring them all on stage. And this is, again, Best AI Podcast. Welcome, everyone. How are you doing today?
Leland.
Oh. We're working without a net over here.
Yeah.
So
Somehow
Lee, welcome back. So glad to have you here. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
being sick is never fun. So
Nah, it sucks, but you know, what are you going to do?
So tell us what you've been hearing about in the news lately.
Well, you know, as usual, there's a lot going on. And one of the things that kind of hit me, I wanted to talk about real quickly was kind of, this is related to the news, is that back in December of 2023, I was asked to write a prediction for Ross Brand's book. And I didn't know what to write about. But one of the things I wrote about was not so much about the technology, was about human reaction to technology. And my comment was basically, my prediction is we're going to get overwhelmed, and it's going to be difficult for us as humans to absorb how fast things are going. And what's happening, that's happening to me now. I'm realizing there's so much happening. It's so hard to keep up with. And I love this stuff, and I eat, drink, and sleep it. But it's so hard to keep up with that I'm even having trouble. And I wonder about how that affects us as, one of the things that happened is a guy I know presented at South by Southwest, people booed him. We get AI talk, because I think what's happening is they're just like, okay, enough AI. Everything's AI. You go to a trade show, everything's AI. And I think people are getting overwhelmed by it.
Makes sense. So I haven't been spending a lot of time in the news. As many people know, we had a family member pass last week. So we had a stage presence that was a little delayed. We didn't actually put out a broadcast until Wednesday afternoon, even though we recorded it Sunday. So we might be a few days behind. But that conversation you had, I think, is real important. And it's based on the fact that we're dealing with a technology that's coming at us so fast that it might be very hard for us as humans to accept what we're seeing, hearing, learning all at one time, because it's obviously a freight train, a fire hose, however you want to, say that metaphorically. But we do need to kind of slow down over here, I think, too, at Best AI Podcast a little bit for the sake of our viewers, just so that we aren't that fire hose. We didn't want to just start bombarding our viewers with news upon news upon news upon, because it changes so fast and everybody's trying to follow up on that. I think we don't need to be another spark in that just makes that fire harder to put out. So I think moving forward, we need to take a breath, kind of think about where we're at right now at Best AI Podcast, which we've done conversational AI last week. And I'd like to carry into that as well, but kind of take it from a little slower perspective. We saw the interface. Ross showed the back end of the interface. So Lee, we didn't get your perspective on how you like to use ChatGPT. So I'm going to give you the stage for just a moment before we get everybody else up here and talk a little bit about how you've been using it to sum up what we did last week.
Okay, yeah, I think Brad had a comment too, so I'll turn it over to him in a second. But what I've learned, my evolution, and I'm a big ChatGPT guy. I love it. I use it all the time. I think my evolution has been, as most people, where I start off asking it questions. Wow, it's great, and I think it's a terrific. What's this? What's that? Give me the numbers of this, like a really glorified search engine. But what I'm starting to do now is more intentional. So what happens is I'm now training it. So let's say there's a project I want to have it do. Let's say I want it to write a script or something like that. Instead of just saying, write me a script, what I do is I upload, let's say, the journey of, the hero's journey, which is a famous, a format, or a 3-part structure of a story. I'll upload that first and say, learn the way this works. Then I'll ask it a question. Say, okay, you are now a script writer. I need you to write me a short 3-minute script for a voiceover that follows a 3-act structure. And so now it knows what I'm looking for. It has some premise of what I'm trying to get it to do. I get much better content when I do that, as opposed to just willy-nilly asking it a question.
Absolutely.
So for me, that's where I've started to evolve to, and doing almost everything now. I'm creating these custom GPTs for all kinds of things. It's really interesting to learn to have it do it to work that way, as opposed to just asking it a question like a search engine.
Got it. Russ, I know you had a monologue you wanted to deliver this to the show. I'm going to give you the stage for a minute. Well, I'm just over here tweaking the viewers out there to see who might have comments on the show. So go ahead and let them have it.
No, and I think that's fantastic the way you're doing that, Lee. One of the things I love about the AI, the way it is being developed, is that it has a memory now, and it's starting to know what you're talking about. Because one of the worst things that AI has is reasoning skills. So if you just say, I want this, it doesn't understand what context you're looking for. It doesn't understand what the use case is. So I think that's definitely one of the biggest things that people need to start doing, is giving it context before they start asking it questions, so that it has understanding of where you're coming from. And I think that's one thing that's a big misconception right now with AI, is that it's this big mystical, magical thing that just does everything you want. And truth be told, it's no more than a tool, just like the internet is a tool. Anything else out there is a tool. And it's about how you calibrate it and how you prep it for the job that you've asked it to do.
And I think the other thing, misconception to play on that, is that people say, oh, it just gives me the same answer as everybody else. There's nothing different about it. And a lot of writers and bloggers and things like that are complaining about that kind of a thing. But I believe that's because if you ask it the same question everybody else asks it, just like you ask a search engine, you're going to get the same results. But if you train it on custom information, on let's say, for example, I've had a few times where I wanted it to help me with the script, and it said, well, tell me what I said in my voice. I said, well, tell me what that is. So I took a couple of transcripts from my YouTube videos. I uploaded it and said, oh, okay. It came back and said, okay, I understand. Your style is this. It's narrative. It now learned my style. So when it wrote or gave me an answer, it gave it to me in the way I speak and my narrative tone. And that is different than just asking it willy-nilly, what you're going to, a question.
Got it. Now, Chris, you've been playing around a lot with Suno and text to music generation. So we got any updates for us over on that end of the spectrum?
It's just been a fantastic time playing with Suno here. Version 3 is better than expected. It's creating 2 verses, a full chorus, even what would be considered like an instrumental bridge or breakdown for the song. So now you have about 1 minute and 40 seconds within a song where you have all this inspiration that you can work with. So I've been pumping out music like no other. I still have plenty of credits on an $8 a month plan. I can't write any more music. My fingers are hurting, but my ears are so happy to hear the songs that are coming through. There's folders now. Creating playlists. So this has just been a wonderful tool.
So I'm glad some of your feature requests made it through. That's the beauty.
I appreciate it.
Well, some people don't realize that when you're in the Wild West like this, I've been a beta tester for almost, I'm going to say 30 years, because of actually every piece of software I've ever purchased, I find a way to go in and reach the developer and say, hey, you know what? I'm using your software. I really like it. It's missing a couple things that I would like to have inside of that package that you're selling, but I don't see it. So you'd be surprised at how receptive software developers are to feature requests, because of the simple fact they're not the ones using the software. they're developing the software for other people to use. And until they get the feedback of the software they've developed, they don't really know what they have in their hands. So you need to let them know, yes, this works, or no, that doesn't work, or yeah, we need this, or no, you can throw that out. That's when a software package truly comes to fruition, thanks to the user base that gives the feedback that's necessary. Ross, tell me, with everything that you're doing in AI right now, are you looking forward to including like AI audio implementations into anything you're working on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this goes back to what you just said with working with the developers. And everything that I do is based around building a better customer experience for our businesses that we work with. So when it comes down to that, what we've done is we've created text ability where AI goes back and forth and has a conversation. And now we're increasing to where we're going to include the spoken word too. So the AI is actually going to answer phone calls and take care of customer service from that standpoint. And I think we're getting close to that point. And I mean, once that happens, it's going to be a game changer. Imagine calling into a business instead of saying, press 1 for this department, press 2 for that department. You just get an AI that sounds like a human on the phone. You ask it your question, and it's either going to answer it or it's going to direct you to the human who has a much smaller workload on their hands. So with audio coming in, it's a little bit different than what Chris is working with, but it's AI audio all the same. So
And
yeah,
the
we're
reason,
definitely.
yeah, the reason I mentioned that is we played out my IVR the other week, which was to just show how I took AI voices, recorded them in the fashion I needed them with the proper inflections that sounded human to be on the other end receiving the calls, but it's still an IVR, push 1, push 2, push 3. And that's what people are used to just recorded voices for. So that wasn't a true AI advancement, but what was and is now is like Ross says, when you pick up that phone, though AI is not allowed to call you by law, okay, FTC has put in place regulations that keep people from being able to take AI mechanics and shoot out phone calls all over the place and blast people with them. So if you're receiving phone calls from AI, please contact the FTC immediately and let them know who you received it from, the phone number it came from. They'll be able to track it down and go after them for fraud, because that's really what they're doing. They shouldn't be doing that. But what I was trying to get at is AI voices are going the future. I mean, that's really what it's going to be if people can handle them. Do you think we'll be able to stand them, Brad? What do you think about an AI voice on the other end of a phone line?
I mean, we're already using it when you call up a bank. They're just giving you digital responses that have been sampled. So we're already there. So I'm okay with it. I don't mind. But getting back to what Lee said when we started this conversation, people are reaching what Alvin Toffler called future shock, where they're being bombarded so much with this information that they literally are like, okay, enough of talk about this. We're getting punched in the face every day with this knowledge. But what was it that he said best? The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. It will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And anyways, getting to what I wanted to talk about, I have to thank Chris for Suno.ai. My nephew is a songwriter, and I showed it to him, and he just flipped out. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm using this, man, because he writes songs at like 3 a.m. on a Saturday night. That's like his thing. So he's already set to use that. For me, Lee, you were talking about this, and I caress Chat GPT so gently and talk to it properly. It is a conversation. But the more information I've found, and those of you who are listening, the more detail you can get it without getting pedantic. Just give it the parameters to work within. I gave it links to the books I was referencing. I put links in there for my blog, which I spent years writing, so it can see my writing style and being very definite. And today, within a minute, it cranked out 12 chapter outlines with summaries in less than a minute. And so it's a powerful tool, and I love using it, man.
I'm glad to hear you're having great success with it, because I use it every day whenever I can. Lee, where do we go from here? We've got a lot of stuff that we could delve into.
Being an illiterate like me, without it, I'd be stupid. That's the,
You think?
that's the great thing about it. is that so? I have a friend of mine, Sue Ann, and the woman, she's just amazing. She's a fan. She's worked with me for years on as a writer. She's a writer, so she's great at. I'll hand her my stuff. She'll look at it. She can rewrite it, make it. And what I love about her, she can look at it and rewrite it in my style. It sounds like my voice base. So she knows me that well. So that's great for her. So for her, an AI system is not something that's really beneficial. But for graphics, she's not very good. For me, I'm not a graphic designer, but I know Photoshop, I know Rule of Thirds, I know some graphic stuff. So for me, that's great. I can use some AI, not use some AI, but for her, she has to depend on it. So it's a great example to me of where you have two people with two different strengths using the same tool for different things. And I think that's the key, finding what makes sense for you, how to use it. And one last thing I want to make a comment on about the music thing. I was thinking about this just the other day. I was thinking about you, Chris, when I was thinking about the Suno thing, in that, we don't even think anything about the people that's been put out of work because of music, right? Look at the music industry. Musicians used to play live music. Now they don't even do that. Now they don't even have synthesizers. They have synthesizers. They don't even have pianos. They have electronic pianos. All those people, the technology changed their role in life and their jobs. And the same thing is going to happen in these other areas. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It just is.
That's true. Well, what's on our minds for the upcoming show? I want to kind of break this down to give everybody a chance to give us some input on where they think we should take the show, because I can sit over here and ask ChatGPT to teach us all GPT, or I can ask it to teach us anything AI as a group and just produce that type of content on the fly and come out with it. I think I'd prefer to steer it in the direction of our viewers, which we don't have live viewers currently on the show, so there's not much we can do to take those inputs now. But I want to go around the room here, and I'll start with Ross. What do you think we should move ahead with on the show so that it'll help people a little bit better?
Man, that's a tough one. And it comes back to what was said at the very beginning of this, that it's moving at such a fast pace. Where do you stop and actually take the conversation? Because I think if you stop for too long on one topic, you're going to be left behind. And I think that's going to be something that we have to find our identity in here on the Best AI podcast. I think it's going to be just a conversation every week. And I think as long as we stick to what we're doing within our daily lives, I think it's going to be what we are doing most authentically to bring what's actually happening in the real world with AI to the public of our users. I mean, that's really all I think we can do at this point.
And I agree. What about you, Chris? Are there thoughts on the direction you'd like to use AI? What do you think your next, I mean, you're playing with the music, but I'm sure other than your marketing aspects, like, what tweaks your interest? What have you been seeing that are like, man, I'd really like to play with that, or I'd really like to look at that? Something I haven't got a chance to mess with yet.
The shift as far as what we want to use it for and what our audience is going to appreciate most. I think we have two very big differences on the spectrum. You have people who really aren't interested in AI. So those are the ones who will want to start slower, learn at their own pace. Then you have the ones who are keeping up to date with AI. They want to know the news this week, what's coming ahead. So we have this big gap between those who aren't interested and those who are. So we need to find a middle ground. Maybe we start off light, but take on those more advanced topics so that way we don't get left behind as well. I'm just excited for new things that are coming through with this music idea. I started to realize now I can make like royalty-free background music for some of the content that I want to create. I can create like music channel, like YouTube videos. The story that Brad shared with his nephew, as far as a songwriter, that was my first thought when I played with Suno. What a great tool this would be for songwriters, just to give them some inspiration, some new samples to work with. And it's no doubt this has existed in some form or fashion in the past. I actually purchased a sampling platform maybe about 4 months ago where it had pre-made drum fills and beats and rhythms all to it. And if you kind of think about it, AI is the software that's putting these samples together based on predefined parameters that we have, like, these keys work well together, this scale works well together. So it's really just putting all these things together within the tool, and then how do we want to use it?
Now, one thing to remember too with these music generators, people have to keep in mind the fact that the free ones don't normally allow you to use those snippets in commercialized products. So if you're going to use it for a podcast or anything like that, you do have to pay for the software. A lot of people get away with that stuff all the time. I put it on the podcast currently without a paid account because I'm not running any promotions to sell anything on the podcast. We will be in the future. And at that point, I suspect Chris and I will sit down and make a better version of the theme song for Best AI Podcast so that it's a fully incorporated version of everything that's capable of over there. And then we'll kind of license that in a sense and call it ours. Lee, what else you got for us? Is there anything you've been seeing in the news today that looks interesting?
My passion right now and focus is video. I think that video and 3D modeling are the two areas that we're going to see the biggest growth in AI. We're continuing to see an evolution in large language models and health and these different industries, but the two areas that for me that are missing are the ability to do, for lack of a better word, text to 3D models and text to video. Now, we've talked about Sora and what's going on there with OpenAI, but now there's a number of other companies have announced things. So I think for me, that's going to make a big impact in the industry. So I don't know if I think we might have mentioned this before. Tyler Perry down in Atlanta, a movie producer, actor, has a studio down there. He delayed a $800 million expansion into his studio system after he saw Sora. So he now saw, okay, wow, this is going to change the industry. I need to decide what's going to happen first. So I see that's a disruptive force, and I see it happening in a lot of other areas. Video editing, for example, is I had I posted something on a forum a software I use called Camtasia, which is made by TechSmith. It's an editor. And my question was basically, what are these guys going to do? Because they're now charging me $179 for editing software, $200 for licensing of assets, video clips, audio clips, things like that. Their audio add-on is $200, that kind of a thing. So these guys, to me, are going to need to change their business model because they can't continue based on what's going on in the industry. So that's the kind of way I look at the things that are going on, more higher level view, more industry perspective than anything else.
Yeah. And I've seen not only that one, but some of the other ones coming out. We've also got the new image generator at Stability, where we're looking at text. And that's something that we've been waiting for a long time, because in order to generate a nice looking logo for somebody, hands too. Anything with more than two fingers messes up, I think. But I think it's all about, when you think about the organics of humanity and the way our hands move, there's something non-mechanical about that. The human eye, I'm amazed that AI has gotten the human eye as well as it has without messing that all up. But fingers, toes, any kind of just movement on body parts seem to have always been a problem. How they cured that, I don't know, but they did with Sora. Or is it Sora?
Well, yes. One of the things they've mentioned in Sora, which I didn't realize, it has the ability to understand the mechanics and the physical world. Now, that's something that's new. I think when you look at a lot of things that are created, it's all electronically generated. It's using, pixels, that kind. But this is different. This is using the math and understanding the physical world. When you start mapping the physical world into this system, now all of a sudden things get very, very real.
Yeah. Chris, you got anything in mind that you're looking to use AI for? Besides automations, besides marketing content, besides music? I mean, I brought this question up a little bit before, but you were still focused on music. I'm just curious if there's any other avenues that you're like, I need to look into that.
I really think that text to video is going to be something we can play with, just for B-roll footage, creating content. I know it's always within the context of marketing or music, but that's really what I use most of these tools for, and that's what I enjoy doing. So that's kind of where my thought first goes, is how can I use this for marketing?
Chris, have you tried using like ChatGPT or some other large language model to write lyrics that you can put into Suno? Because that seems to me, at least when I looked at Suno, the biggest complaint I had was the lyrics didn't seem right. The music sounds great, but the lyrics don't seem to work right.
I'm actually pretty impressed with the lyrics that Suno can come up with. However, just recently I am noticing that they are deterring or staying away from two separate lyrics, as an example. So they're actually taking one set of lyrics for the two songs that you generate. So I'm getting the same exact lyrics, just different types of music around it, which is kind of cool to see how it creates that. But I actually preferred when it had variances in the lyrics themselves, because that's what I was hoping for. But I think that is a great use case to actually use ChatGPT to create some sort of rhyme, some song that you can then put into the Suno in order to create, some lyrics that are kind of upgraded, something a little more top notch.
Makes sense. I'm going to kind of leave it open to you, Ross. You've been kind of tracking mobile. Have you seen anything new and exciting in mobile at all, or no? Nothing, huh? Nothing at all, from what I can tell.
Oh, just the audio thing.
We lost you.
So let's go to Brad. Let's see what he has to
his
say.
audio again.
I was asking Lee about Focus because or however you say it, Focus. I really want to use some of these illustration tools that AI provides, simply because back in the day when you wanted to do a photo shoot, we didn't have stock photo everywhere. I remember the first time I had to do brochures for Banco Popular and find a Mexican family buying a house. Do you know how hard that was in 1993? There wasn't stock photo for that, and it took us a month to find something. Or you had to call up a photographer and say, hey, can you do this scene? Well, now you can program something to do that. Right now I'm doing a book for a client, and I have some crazy custom ideas that I'm not going to find on any of the stock photo platforms. So I'm going to use Focus to do that, to generate some of these ideas. Simply because you can customize what you really want to see and maybe not rely so much on an illustrator. I'm an illustrator. I'm lucky that I can use Photoshop for just about anything. But to have it programmed in right away, let's say I want Monopoly pieces and I want them in gold, and I want them to be of certain business sectors, each one representing a business sector. I can program that in. And I think that is the exciting part about this for art directors and creative directors and things like that. It's just going to elevate what we're doing.
I love that.
And that's
aspect.
kind of the way
right
I've
now.
done it.
You can see it.
That's kind of the way I've used it, Brad, as well. Maybe I don't need a whole picture. Maybe I just need an element to bring into Photoshop that I can composite with something else. Getting that one element is difficult. So if you just need that gold, Monopoly piece, great. I can bring that into Photoshop, manipulate it. So it's not like we're giving up. It's not a one button push. You're going to get exactly what you need, but it certainly is a great tool. And I think it's also the thing Chris was talking about. The ability to do stock B-roll footage is going to be phenomenal. That I could definitely use right now.
I totally agree. I left a link on Best AI Podcast's Facebook page. If I said that right, of another video generator that's out that's competing against Soros and could very well meet, and it's free and it's already available. So go take a look on the posts of the wall there, and I'll try to highlight it earlier. So Ross, it looks like we had you all along. I don't know what happened to the audio there, but
that was my fault, Leland. I have a squeaky chair and I was moving, so I muted it and then unmuted.
The cardinal
User
law that
error.
I tell him to follow is don't mute yourself on that end, and he muted himself. That's all right, Ross.
No
Don't
one-
worry about it. I'm doing a lot
no
more
one escapes.
worse to the show than you are. So
The squeaky chair.
tell me what's
Uh,
happening on mobile, Ross.
Honestly, man, I've not seen a whole lot on mobile, but I haven't tracked it as much. It's been a busy week for me. But last I saw, the biggest move is that Samsung is giving massive credits on the old trade-in phones, so that you end up upgrading to their AI phones with the Galaxy S24 Ultra. It's really the biggest thing I've seen. But talking about OpenAI, and this kind of falls into the mobile, is its new AI robot. Did anybody see that?
Elon's robot?
No. OpenAI partnered with
Oh,
BMW.
OpenAI's robot. Yes.
Yeah, and
I
they
saw that
partnered
one.
with BMW to make Figure One, and that thing is, if you have seen iRobot, it is the epitome of iRobot.
It's called Figure One, right?
Yeah, I sent you a link if you want to pull it up later in the
did you?
show
Oh,
in our
okay.
group chat for the demo. That thing is nuts.
Yeah, that's what I
So
was
let me
looking to
ask you
find,
guys a
actually.
question here. The robot thing I think is what scares people the most, mainly because of the uncanny valley. But the more I think about it, the more I keep thinking, well, I wouldn't mind having a robot that could help me clean out the garage, or so there are some applications I think you could use, quote unquote, an assistant of some kind to help with those things, especially if you're disabled or you're just sick or whatever. So that could be the first area, other than in industry, we see could start showing up in our homes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Here's a little vision
Yeah.
of the robot that Ross was just speaking of. So we're not going to play the audio on this, but I'm going to let you guys get a feel for how this thing. Well, does it talk? It does. I would
Yeah,
expect.
it does. It
Let's see
talks.
what it
So
says.
the whole thing is audio based. So he's talking to the robot, asking it what's in front of it, asks it to give him some food.
Yes, come with me if you
Okay,
want to
he is
live.
talking to it here. Let's see.
Ask
Can you
him to
guys hear
clean
that?
up some garbage.
Here's the first part of the demo.
Hey, Figure One, what do you see right now?
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby.
I was
with your
amazed at
hand
how
on
it
the
was
table.
passing the
Great,
apple
can I have something
between
to
one
eat?
hand and the other.
Sure thing.
And it sees its own body and can do that. That was pretty cool.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Great. So, based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
Of course.
All right. So, how do you think you did?
I think I did pretty well. The apple found its new owner, the trash is gone, and the tableware is right where it belongs.
I agree. Thanks, Figure One.
You're welcome. If there's anything else you need help with, just let me know.
This remarkable feat, once thought to be decades away, has been achieved by integrating OpenAI's state-of-the-art multimodal AI, which incorporates its most powerful language system to seamlessly understand and process both visual and textual information.
Now, this is Tesla's version of a similar robot, so it's not the same, much differently geared in the arms and the way that it actually manipulates the gearing in the elbows and the wrists and things like that. But you can see then that we have options. It's not like a robot is going to come in just one flavor. I think we're going to see a lot of different kinds of robots. We already have some out there, running the streets, making deliveries. We got drones flying in the air, dropping off stuff for Amazon. So where do you see robots coming into play? In the home? In business?
I personally think it's going to start in big companies like BMW, Tesla. They're going to use it in their factories. Then you're going to see mass production happen. And then I think you'll see secondhand robots getting passed down to smaller companies. and then overflow of developed robots getting passed down to smaller companies, and then from there it'll start to drip into the public as the high rollers get their hands on some robots here and there. Personally, I kind of think that's just how it's going to roll.
Yeah, when you look at what they're actually incorporating here, you can see on the screen, this is what it started with. Okay, I was in the auto industry for several years as a designer and a billing department rep to take care of the design end of things. And when robots hit, people freaked out. They were like, they're going to take my job. And we were like, well, they might if you're not careful of what you're doing. But a lot of things that we saw in the end was just failing robots and people having to work on them and fix them and things of that. I think we always have to keep in mind that there's always the necessity for somebody to repair robots when they break. So it's an open market for a lot of different things. But what I think we're seeing now is people freaking out that they're going to have this android that looks too human, which the Japanese have already done, Chinese have as well, that they are going to be freaked out about, that it's going to do something terrible to us. So how do we cut that virus out? How do that cancer, whatever it is? That's the part I really want to attack as we move forward. We keep saying it's a tool, but when it becomes lifelike like this, what's its purpose? You know what I mean? Is it just a helper? Is it an employee? Is it a lover?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got people building these robots already. What do you think it's going to be? Why do we need these? These are the questions I keep asking myself. Like,
yeah, I was saying, that's what I was saying. I think that the healthcare industry would be the biggest area. Someone that's that's disabled and maybe blind or doesn't have can't have motor skills, could have someone that's an assistant that could help them.
Yeah.
And that to me would be that's a real human value that somebody could benefit from.
Yeah.
It really raise your quality of life.
Chris, what do you think about robots?
I absolutely agree. And I hope with what Lee mentioned as far as the healthcare industry, that maybe that can spill over into prosthetics as well. Because if we are able to now mass produce these legs and ligaments and mechanical pieces, that should hopefully reduce the cost for a lot of prosthetics here. In addition, I mean, imagine a plane going into a war-torn country and suddenly these lifelike robots are coming off of the plane. What are we going to, think of this? Is this an appropriate use of these robots? I mean, again, tools can be used for anything, anywhere. Should we take a moral high ground here? Should we say, okay, we can't weaponize these? We already have drones that are dropping off payloads that are kamikaze planes in a sense. What can we do?
Yeah. Now I'm looking at the video right now, and this is where you can see through the robot's eyes, in a sense, where it's able to determine what an object is, how much pressure it needs to utilize in order to handle that object, because that's a key factor here when it comes to allowing a mechanical arm to manipulate things. There's pressures, there's, the strength of that robot itself is somewhat immeasurable. You can measure it, obviously, and set a limit to it, but for it to hold an egg like that, that's a lot of calculations that have to take place in real time, the entire time that robot is holding that egg. So I just look at it as a lot of work to produce a result that, like you guys are saying, let's build prosthetics. Let's add on to the benefit to what we're already doing as humans. And I agree with that. But how do we do this? How do we connect the mind to the part is what I guess I'm saying. I think that's where Elon's going, right?
One of the things that's interesting about his approach, he claims, is that his robots don't. a lot of robots have to be programmed and taught thing. His, apparently, according to him, his system, it learns. You don't have to tell it anything. It will learn it by doing, and that's a very different approach.
I leave the floor open to anyone that wants to throw something out here right now. Ideas for next week's show. This, again, we're going to post edit this. We just come here to record on Sunday night.
Yeah.
If you get to see it live, you're lucky. You get to see all the mess that happens while we're doing the show. So I'll start with Brad or Lee. Go ahead. You got your hand up.
I have something I'd like to discuss with the group, and that is this whole AGI thing I brought up
Oh, that's
before.
right.
There seems to be a lot of fear about this, next generation of AI. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't quite understand it. Why is it there? Okay, it's smarter. It can maybe have some more human characteristics, whatever. That's something I think we should dive into. What is the fear of that, and is it realistic or not?
Now, when you say AGI, aren't you talking about advanced general intelligence?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
No.
here's my problem with that, by the way, because the concern is that it's going to be smarter than a human. All right. Well, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but let's face it, man, there are a lot of stupid people out there, and that doesn't take very much to be smarter than most of us out there.
Oh, no.
So when it comes to something like that, I don't think that's a great measurement. I think it's got to be more than that.
Gotcha. Brad, I know I'm getting a lot of background noise on your mic, so if you do go to talk, just give me that second to open your mic before you come on. I think it's just bandwidth through your Wi-Fi, that's all. So, Brad, give us a rundown. How are you doing on your book so far? Where you at?
I have the outline ready. I'm starting to write, and excited because the summary that ChatGPT gave me, each chapter is laid out nicely. So I already know how I want it to flow and things like that. So, yeah. By the way,
And Brad,
robots.
if you need any introductions or anybody you're trying to get to, let me know. I may already know.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. The robot issue, by the way, is one of my favorite subjects. I'm a big fan of Isaac Asimov, who laid out the groundwork for some of what we're seeing today. A science fiction writer, for those of you who don't know. But we're already using robots. I mean, we're already using them to weld and assemble cars. I think the next level is, obviously we're using them in the military, but they're going to be using robots for the most dangerous jobs now, rather than human beings. And technology has always come along at the right time or evolved and showed up to really save money and become more efficient and to get more work done in less time. And that's what robots are going to do. They're going to take over some of those more dangerous positions in our world. And we're going to have unions fighting it. We're going to have, the AGI is really how close to being like a human will an AI bot or robot be. And I think that's going to freak a lot of people out. Well, the first day that a robot looks like an android and starts talking to you is going to be the day that people really kind of flip out. And so far, it's science fiction how we're going to psychologically handle that. But now we're facing it as a reality. So who knows what we're going to see.
Totally got it. All right. I think we're just about down to the wire. Is there anything we'd like to close with today besides where they can find everybody? I think next week, I want to kind of focus again on what's already happened in text to video, because since our last couple announcements, a lot of other stuff has happened. A lot of new stuff has come out. And I think with the fact that a lot of us are here to produce video, and Ross, by the way, I saw a couple of your recent ones. I don't know if you used AI in any of those productions, but definitely on the marketing front and doing what you can do to get the word out on AI. Good job. Lee is the guy who's handling all of the 3D animations when it comes to creating characters and avatars and helping people develop a faceless YouTube channel as we move ahead. Chris, the music, and Brad, the writing. Me, I'm just going to sit back here and hopefully put it all together so that you guys can figure out how to do it. If you want to find where we're broadcasting, head over to YouTube at Best AI Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook at the same address. And if you want to join the Facebook group, which Ross has put together for us, it's called AI Fusion. You can find that on Facebook as well. Do you have that branded, Ross, as an at AI Fusion page or group, I should say?
Let me check real quick.
Because that would be a way to make sure they get. But we'll leave a link in the on all the platforms that this shows up on. So, but always look for us over at our website at bestaipodcast.tv, where you can find the feeds for everything, including the audio only feed that comes out of Acast. So if you want to share that with your friends, and if you can't find our links during the live broadcast, just head over to the .tv and you'll find the buttons right there below the theme song, above the audio broadcasts, where you can click onto those platforms and find us broadcasting. So that's it for us today, everyone. Thanks for coming. I thank all of those on the panel for coming by again today, as they always do. Greg will be here on an irregular basis whenever he can make it. He decided it was a little too much to be here every Sunday, but we do anticipate him stopping in every now and then to let us know what's going on over at Shopify. So thanks to everyone out there viewing, and come join us. We're all here to learn together. Wave bye-bye
See you guys.
to the camera, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Au revoir.
In this digital age, we're breaking the mold. With AI fusion, let the story unfold. From life to business, the future is here. Unlock the potential, make it crystal clear. It's time to fuse, let the sparks ignite. AI in action, reaching new heights. Love and business blending into one. AI fusion, the journey's just begun.
That's when Elvis comes out on stage. Da-da-da, da-da-da. Thank you very much.